Hello, hello. I am Cledra Gross, and I am here for your motivational moment on this Monday. So I'm excited to be speaking briefly with you here in the What Now movement. So I just want to make sure in this What Now movement that you can, first of all, hear me. So I'm just going to take a moment to just look down to make sure that I am live in the group and that everything is going well. All right, looks like everything's all set and I'm in the group. So, I'm going to be talking to you about the roadmap to the results that you want now in both life and business. And I love the title of this group because the What Now movement is something that we can look at intentionally. Obviously, in the midst of this pandemic, but to look at this and to revisit now repeatedly. So, a little bit of background on me before I get into this. So, I am a life and business coach and I work for myself full time. I have for the last 4 years. But before that, I was 21 years in corporate. And most of those, at least 15 of those 21, at the executive level in pharmaceutical sales. Why do I share that? Because as our seasons of life change, we get to a point where I don't know if you can relate to this and tell me if you relate by posting below where what you want now is different than what you wanted in the beginning. And I'm bringing this up because we spend the first 21 or maybe 31 years of life, depending on how much education you have, following a curriculum that someone outside of us has given us. So we follow the curriculum for college and what is required to get a certain degree. And then we follow the resume writing that we're given of how to write a great resume to get the job that we want. And then once we're in the job, then we're looking at the job description that we have, and then we look at what we want to be promoted to. And again, all of these things are from the outside in. But as we get to that double digit mark in corporate or that double digit mark, in our business, and we've gone through the marriage and the kids, there's a point where it's time to recalibrate and look at what now. And so the reason I wanted to bring that up is because independent of COVID, we always have the ability to decide what outcomes do we want right now, as opposed to waiting for external things to change for us to go for the outcomes that we want. And I'm bringing that up specifically because so many people, and I do this for a living, are waiting for the right time. Oh, hold on. I'm getting something from Eric. I'm making sure he can hear me. Okay, this is the technology that we're in, and that's fine. I can roll with it as long as you guys can. Uh, Let me just text him and see if he can hear me. I'm going to be taking you through 4 steps to actually get on top of, identifying what you want now. So just stay with me. Just making sure the technology is working here. Uh, for some reason, I thought we were going to be on a split screen and not just one way. All right, you can hear me, Ted. Excellent. All right. So, the first thing is to get really clear about the outcomes that you want. So, the way I typically teach this in my practice is that you want to have outcome focused thinking. And the reason that's important is because we are in what I call infobesity. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of knowledge. We're no longer in a season where you're searching for how. You can Google almost anything and find out how. So it's about you getting really clear. Thank you, Ted, so much. You getting really clear about the outcomes that you want, and not just in business, but also in your life. The reason this is important is because sometimes we can have goals in business that then compromise the goals that we want in our life. So, for example, I had a client who wanted to be a speaker, and she was also newly married. And so I asked her, how will those two, how do you see those two things going together? Because if you're speaking and you're on the road a lot, then what kind of marriage do you want? Again, no judgment, but you just want to get clear. And so I want to offer that to you. If you could fast forward, and we are celebrating January 1, 2021, and I'm saying Happy New Year to you, what outcomes do you want to create by that time? Getting really clear on this will then, if you reverse engineer it, allow you to get clear on your yes and your no. So often we are at the effect of the news that we may hear for the day, the little ticker tape of how many people have passed away, the racial injustice, all of those things are going on around us. And you want to make decisions on those, meaning that you want to decide, in terms of the racial injustice, if you want to, get into activism, in terms of the pandemic, if you want to be an advocate for wearing masks. The point is, you want to make decisions. You don't want to have open loops in your mind about what you're doing. So, going back to my client with the speaking and the marriage, it's getting really clear about how you want to occupy the space of both life and business. Because we spend so much of our lives taking an external curriculum, without considering the life that goes with it. It's important that in this stage of life, the what now movement, the what now motivation for this Monday that I want to give you is that you get clear on both. This is a great time that if you have been sheltering in place and not enjoying your family time, this is a great time to get real, to say, why is that? What is it that we need? What gaps do we need to close in terms of the outcomes that we want as a family? You see what I'm saying? It's not just about what the money and the things that we do in business, but it's combining the life and the business. So considering your purpose, your values, and your mission when you are considering your outcomes. So that's the first thing. Then looking at the actions that you're going to need to take to create those outcomes. Like for me, it's very important that the climate of my home is a climate of love and peace, and that my husband feels great in our home, and that I set the tone. And so that quality of life matters. And so I want you to really think about that too, and to be intentional about the outcome in your home, the outcome in your how you are experiencing life. All right. And not just the outcomes that we are typically given from the outside in. And then have a practice of review. So often when I'm working with my clients, they will set the goals and we'll have the actions, and then the review part and looking at, okay, what's going well and what isn't. This is very important because a lot of times we don't want to look at the review because it requires us to look at where we're not being as disciplined to getting what we say we want. So having the discipline comes after the excitement of setting the outcomes. It's always exciting to think about the future, to think about down the road. But when you bring it back to the day to day, the reason coaching is so important is because most of us left on our own will drift. We'll drift into distractions, we'll drift into excuses, and we'll drift into great sounding reasons that this isn't a good time. And so it's important that you hold yourself to a new standard of discipline to actually create the outcomes that you want. This is the biggest part because it's in the reviewing every single week. And I have my clients do it every single night. When you get that granular, then you can really see what is impairing your ability to move forward. And 9 times out of 10, it's an emotion that most people are unwilling to experience. Let me give you an example. Starting a business and putting yourself out on social media. I had a client recently, she put something out on social media and she got a negative comment. It's in those moments when we step into what we say we want, and our response isn't that A, like we got when we were students. Most of my clients, they're used to being the A student, the gold star student. They did well in corporate, and now they're transitioning into something different, more creative, more innovative, and something that they are putting into the world. Then you have to deal with, first of all, the people's response, and then your response to maybe their lack of response. That's what usually gets us, the people pleasing. The other thing that can get us is how our family responds when we grow into another level and wanting people to grow just like we're growing. And that seldom to never happens. So that's the other thing. That's the second thing that gets in the way. The third thing is comparing your now to your yesterday. So when I have clients who want to work on getting in better health, they will compare their now to the way they were in college, or they will compare their now to before the kids or before the marriage. And so using your, I call this using your past against you. You're using a past version of you to reference the current version of you. And that also will slow down your progress for what's now, because you're not comparing yourself to the future. You're comparing yourself to what was. All right. And so the fourth thing is the opinion of others. I'm sharing the parts that cause us to just shut down. The opinions of other people. What will people think? What will people say? What will my family think? What will my friends think? When we step out of this the category, for lack of a better way of saying it, that we've been in all of our life. Maybe you've always been the structured one, and now you want to write books and you want to explore more of your artistic side. Or maybe you've always been the responsible one, and now to your family, being an entrepreneur is doing something irresponsible. So being willing to step out of the stamp that maybe life has had on you, or that you have had on you, is I would say the fourth way that it keeps people from moving towards the outcomes that they really want. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about is having a system of looking at how your thoughts are keeping you from moving towards the outcomes. I listed the other things, but now I want to go inside of you. So most of the work that I do is all about how do you have that high level intentional thinking that's going to drive the actions consistently to create the results you want. And the way you do that, the most powerful thing you can do to support brain health is to put what you're thinking on paper every single day. And what I mean by that is what you're specifically thinking about the outcome, whether it's I'm worried, or will I be able to do it, or will I make the money I want to make in it. You have to get those things out of your mind and onto paper so that you can then objectively see what's going through your mind that could be slowing down your actions. All right. This is really, really important. And especially if you find the indicator that you will know that this is a challenge for you is if you find yourself procrastinating, if you find yourself in overwhelm, if you find yourself being inconsistent, if you find yourself doing what I call compare and despair. You're looking around at other people and then you look at yourself and you're like, oh, I'm just falling short. So those are indicators that you need to clean up your mind, that your mind and your productivity always have an inverse relationship. And what I mean by that is the more that you have on your mind, the less productive you're going to be. So you have to not only clean out what's there, and I want you to look around now. Your environment is an indicator of your mind. So if you are able to work in a lot of clutter, that tells me that you are picking up a lot of things and renegotiating and reconsidering and being in a lot of indecision, because your mind needs to have clean lines. And what I mean by that is that things are parked where they need to go. That's why your external environment reflects your internal environment in terms of your desk, in terms of how you operate each day. Things need to be parked in your mind, because if they're not, and they're just allowed to be all over the place, it's like a messy desk, then you'll spend a lot of time going through things over and over and over again. So, the importance of taking what's in your mind and putting it on paper and then objectively looking at, okay, what are the thoughts that I want to intentionally have today that will lead me to drive the actions that are going to ultimately drive the outcomes. So, every day, everything that we do can be boiled down to outcomes and actions. Everything that you're doing, outcomes and actions. And it's a matter of assessing, am I getting the outcomes that I want? And if you're not, I know this sounds so simple, but people don't do it. Then you're looking at your actions. And if you're not taking the actions, then that's when you have to look at your thoughts. Because chances are you are thinking in a way that's out of alignment with the ultimate outcomes that you want. Sounds easy, but I can promise you, easy to say, not easy to habitually do, because it's much easier for us to get caught in the loop of busyness versus outcomes. And I'll close with this. Every day, it's important that you start with, what intentional outcome do I want for this day? What intentional outcome? It's good. I started this with inviting you to think about January 1st and saying Happy New Year and what you could accomplish. But now I want to dial it all the way back to every day. What outcome do you want today? Did you start today with a routine that's going to lead you to the outcome? So having a system of managing all of the sensory inputs that we have every day is not negotiable in the 21st century. I was born in 1970, so the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we didn't have as much sensory input. So the need to have a system of thinking really happened, I'd say, like in the Y2K, once we had so much media, social media. And so getting clear on your outcome every day will direct your brain. Our brain is like a missile. It wants to have a target. And if you don't proactively give your brain a target every day, it will adopt one from your past, or it will adopt one from your environment. And so, knowing at the end of this day, when you put your head on the pillow, what specific outcomes do you want to say that I accomplished? And if you don't know the answer to that, and you don't have a system of doing that every day, then I would invite you to join me in my roadmap to creating the results that you want in your life and business. So this is a totally new way to work with me that I'm doing in this season, where you can learn the two most common mistakes that people make when they're trying to create transformation. And I'll give you the two, and the class that I'm offering goes into detail. Most people change the wrong thing, and they change it the wrong way. And I go into that in the class. You have to consider your neural physiology now. And I don't want to go too deep into that. I told you I'm a chemical engineer by trade. And so everything that I think about is process oriented. And how do you optimize the process? And you must optimize your process of how you habitually think. And it's beyond positive thinking. When you're thinking about your purpose and your value and your mission, those are positive. That's where you can be in that positive space. But when we come to the day to day, it's not about just being positive about everything. It's about being strategic. It's about having systems. It's about having systems that you can replicate, systems that you can have reliable and predictable outcomes as a result of implementing those systems. And in the absence of that, that's when your mind is not focused, because there's no framework of systematic thinking. All right. So I'll put access to that class somewhere around this video, maybe in the comments. I'll talk to Eric about where to put it. And so that's what I have for you. This feels so odd because I can't see what you guys are saying. So that's what I have. I guess that is the end. I will end now. Thank you so much, Eric, for the invitation. I hope you guys got a lot from this. I know you did. I know you did. I'm not going to say hope, because I know hope is not a strategy. It's a great thing, but I know. So really look at the outcomes, really do an inventory of your mind, Really look at the current outcomes you're creating and the gap in how are you consistently, the things that you're habitually doing, and the gap between where you are and where you want to go. That's what I help people close. And I do it in a way where you have a system. You have to be able to manage your mind under all conditions. Under all conditions. All right. So that's what I have for you. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Go create some amazing outcomes. And if you want some support to take that to another level and to have some systems, then I'll put the roadmap to creating results in your life and business. I'll put that class somewhere where Eric says it's okay. All right. God bless. Take good care of yourself. Be safe. Thanks a lot. Bye.